Good deal. All right. Good morning, everybody. This is Sean Sellers, and I wanted to introduce the two guys I'm interviewing today from Stone Creek Club and Spa in Covington, Louisiana. Interviewing with Larry Connor, the general manager, and Marvin Gresse, the assistant general manager. Both guys are industry vets with a lot of experience on many levels and many different facilities. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to talk to them today about the health club perspective and let them talk about their COVID-19 experiences and their plans going forward. So how are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Ready
Good.
to get our club going again.
Hey, Sean, how's it going?
So you received some good news this week, right?
We did, Sean. We were shut down since March 17th, I think it is. Middle of March, we were shut down, mandated shutdowns.
Yeah.
But we actively have been involved with both our local authorities, the parish, and coming up with the guidelines for clubs to follow and studios and all of that, including everyone.
Okay.
And then we got involved with the task force for the state of Louisiana and actually got put on the task force.
Oh, wow.
None of this happened easily. We had to be persistent. We had to keep going. And the main thing is that we reached out with information that, supported what the clubs could or could not do. We spoke to all the clubs regularly around here and worked together on this project. And we came up with guidelines that pretty much were accepted by both our parish and our state. And before we got involved, they were not going to allow us to open until phase 2. But we were able, by getting involved and showing them what clubs can do to keep members safe and everybody working together on this, that we were able to convince them to allow us to open phase 1, which starts tomorrow.
So you were involved with other area clubs just in the immediate area, or let's say Baton Rouge as well, New Orleans, any other parts of the state?
Yeah, I think it went across the state. Larry was in touch really close with all of our North Shore clubs, Franco's Athletic Club, Pelican, Cross Gates, all those guys, Boga Falaya. And we had a couple calls too with the hospital-based clubs, Wayne Morris with Oshner Fitness and Scott Cochran in Alexandria, Christus. I believe there's be 3 or 4 locations in Louisiana, even into Texas. So just kind of seeing what those guys were doing, how it maybe affected them a little differently in the less populated areas.
Oh, that's good. So you being on the task force, who did you work with? What government officials did you interact with?
Well, it's a weird situation here in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And the thing was, as I think I discussed with you, the real deal, the real important thing that happened was we were able to move from phase 2 to phase 1, but they also had some real restrictions and possibly not allowing it at all, like things like group fitness, locker rooms, swimming pool activities at all. But by grabbing guidelines from both the CDC and supporting our positions with swimming pools being safe, especially outdoors, and especially lap swimming with 1 per lane, things like that, really following the guidelines and showing our best that we're going to do it. And also URSA has some great resources for all of this. We were able to get them to change all this. And we didn't know definitely until yesterday, even though I'm sitting on the task force for the state. We didn't know until definitely, I think it was around midnight last night or 10 o'clock last night, the final regulations came out.
Wow.
We knew the parish, but we didn't know the state. You have to go with the stricter of the two. But we work directly with the restaurant and leisure task force. So we sit on that committee, and that includes everybody from the Superdome to Tiger Stadium, to the movie industry, to the zoo, restaurants, sports teams. All of that is included in this. And then we have health clubs and studios and all this stuff. But so it's a big group. It's a wide ranging group, but it's been a great experience. And the thing is, we don't stop now. Even though we're open in phase 1, the group works to phase 2, and then the group's going to work afterwards to saying, okay, if you have to scale this back down again, how do you do it? What do you do? What are the guidelines? And also down here, we deal with a lot of other emergencies, as you know, like hurricanes and things like that. People shut down quickly. They want to know the rules to be able to handle that in the future. So it's going to be guidelines that they can keep on a state and parish level forever and be able to apply it to different situations. So it's been a great experience. And this goes directly to the governor.
Wow. That's great. Yeah, it's been interesting to see all the updates that have come out so frequently and see how they've evolved in their decision-making process and how fortunately the health club industry was counted in phase one. So that was a great thing to see.
It is. I mean, it helps that the White House started that.
Yeah.
And thanks to all the clubs. I know, like Jim Worthington up with the NAC up in Pennsylvania. He was a big part of that, and Ursa was a big part, and all the other clubs up there. But they got the White House to include us, and I know Lifetime Fitness. They got them to include us in phase one. That helped. CDC not stomping on us helped too. But in this whole thing, we've seen that people, government officials in our levels and all, kind of looked at us as a problem, as a germ-sharing group, as opposed to where we really are, and that's the solution. All of our clubs were already moving in amazing ways. Things I heard through the Rex roundtables, Marvin's been involved with it too. I mean, clubs are a lot stricter than the authorities are making us be. So we can do a lot more than a lot of these other places like retail stores can do to keep our members safe and healthy. And it's good to see the club owners doing that. But if you don't get involved, they're acting out of ignorance. And that's not in an ugly way. They just don't know how we work. So if you don't get involved, I recommend you get involved now. Even if you're already open, get involved in the process, because it can change on a dime, we know, come fall or whatever. And you want to make sure that they're listening to you in a reasonable way that keeps your operations healthy financially and all your members healthy and employees.
Sean, I think Larry has a really good point there. I think that if a club is not talking to their local officials, of course, the state officials can make the ultimate determination, but your local councilman, city councilman, parish presidents, any of the officials in your area, state officials, Mark Wright's office, our state rep here locally in Covington, has been really helpful. So the more you can talk with those folks, have a relationship with them before a catastrophe or something in an emergency situation happens, the better communication lines you can have there, and just some respect back and forth as to what we could do here and how we could support them, and then how they could support us as well. I think the more those lines are open ahead of time and working, the better. And like Larry said, even if you open tomorrow here in Louisiana, we're able to open on the 15th, which is everyone's looking forward to. I think just talk to them next week or the week after, invite them to your club a month from now so they can see how you're operating it, and see the standards you have, and the hand sanitizer, the wipes, all those hot button issues, but just the care that your staff is taking. I think the more that the local officials can see that, the more confidence they're going to have in our industry.
No, I agree. And like you both have mentioned, it's something that's been present in the fitness industry for years. The presence of wipes everywhere, people being conscious of cleaning up before they get on a machine, after they get off the machine, as a courtesy to other members. And of course, not everybody does that, but I'm willing to bet damn near 100% of people are going to be doing it going forward. So all those safety measures and cleanliness measures that have been present are just going to be magnified and improved. And like you said, I think it'll give any sort of government representative a lot of confidence to come in and say, we made the right decision.
Absolutely. And, be very aware of what you're sharing out there on social media, because that tells your story.
That's
so
right.
If you're filming things and people aren't socially distant and people aren't doing the cleaning, and just be very careful with that. They're watching, they're paying attention. And, we want to make sure that we've got to prove that we are professionals. We always want to be treated as professionals. Not all health clubs will look like that in a lot of ways. Hospitals, are very professional organizations following strict guidelines. We want to do the same thing. If we don't do this, the government officials are going to step in more and more. This is only the start. And if we don't make sure that we are stepping up as professionals, the government officials will step in and do it for us. So get involved, be professionals. Don't drop this stuff on the wayside once this stuff is over with. We need to keep these things going. We've all learned a lot. I've learned a lot. I've been at this 30 years in this industry, but I've learned a lot during this process. And a lot of it we're going to keep and keep going, even when they tell us we don't have to. So we'll see.
No, I agree. I know you mentioned the Rex club members, and both of you guys are affiliated with the Rex roundtables. What have you learned from other Rex clubs in the country that maybe helped you working with the task force? Because everybody has a different perspective and maybe a different experience locally. So how did that affect how you approach things?
Yeah, so I know Larry and I have been since this started. The first week that we shut down, I know I had a call with my group, and I think Larry did as well, and we've had weekly calls since then. We've shared, working documents from reopening plans to sanitation plans to equipment. It's still going as of today. This week, Larry got an email from one of the guys in his group that has some extra supplies to sell. So we're looking at different things for air filtration. We've looked at more air filtration and nanoseptic touch point pieces and all that. I mean, more than we ever would have thought of in the last 8 weeks. But I think that those guys just having the breadth of it, I mean, somebody may run down the way with one vendor, a week into it and have a ton of information, saves us a lot of time. One club in my group opened about 10 days ago, Frank Lawrence up at the Little Rock Athletic Centers in Little Rock, Arkansas. Those guys opened about 10, 12 days ago. So we've kind of seen some information back from him. We've had 2 calls where he's kind of shared his usage. He's seeing about 25% of his pre-closure usage right now, about 10 days in. So I think we're able to kind of, hey, are we going to get inundated? Are we going to have 80% of our people back in the door day one? No, probably not, right? Yeah. We'd all look at that, and from a business standpoint, I think we would. But I think we're seeing that we'll be able to ease back into it. And so kind of seeing some of his numbers reopening has helped. We have a couple of groups that are up in New York City that are going to be closed as of our Tuesday call. Their first date that they've been given really is July 15th. So those guys are also looking at us to say, hey, what happens in your first month or 6 weeks of being open, and how's that work? And then we're also looking at them because they're a little more regulated in New York and in California. So just kind of some of those best practices and just kind of also kind of a sounding board for, hey, does this work? Does this sound crazy? Yeah, you're pretty crazy with that. You might want to put that back in the drawer and go to the next page. So I know Larry has some instances as well from his roundtables.
Yeah, and I've seen everything, Sean, like Marvin's saying, but I've seen everything with clubs coming up with 50-page manuals on how to handle the COVID crisis. And of course, I'm thinking through that and say, boy, this is just crazy. It's just so detailed, and it's one situation. But reading through it really helps to see and enlightens you to what everybody's looking at. And I'm not necessarily writing a 50-page document. It might end up being half of that when we're finalized today, but it is stuff that you can't assume people are going to do everything that you want them to do. You have to go out and coach them. Like our managers are going to be on the floor constantly. We're no offices are kind of off limits right now for many reasons. Only one can be in there anyway, but we need to be out there with the members. We need to be cleaning with the team. We need to be coaching the team. A lot of it is going to be coaching people in general. And this Rex group has really helped us formulate a plan for that. It's an amazing thing to be able to reach out to any club in the world, and I really mean the world. We've heard from clubs from China, from Italy that have gone through this crisis a lot sooner than we did and have reopened sooner than we did. We've heard from them, and what's amazing is the stats are proven to be very similar. We're seeing 50-65% of the membership coming back immediately, but it doesn't mean they come into your health club. They just reactivate or they continue their membership. And the others are going to take 30, 60, 90 days to come back, and it's going to be a slow one. They want to wait and see if there's a resurgence and all this kind of stuff. Without that, I was planning on opening up, and I thought our members, I thought we'd have 90% of our members coming back, and, that'd be great. The dues would be amazing again, but it's not going to be. And without us doing our member survey, focusing on that, hearing from other clubs how they did their surveys, and then hearing their experiences, we would have never known. And my financial projections would have been, a disaster.
Yeah, that's a great resource. You act as a resource for them, and vice versa. So it really puts you at an advantage. So that's great to hear. And I think any operator watching this, if they're not aware of this already, they could certainly learn from you guys. That's for sure. So what you mentioned kind of leads me into my next question is, so you're going to have, let's say, 65% of people coming back. How are you going to cater to the remaining folks? Are you going to have y'all instituted virtual workouts, or have you been doing that? And I guess, are you going to continue doing it to help the people who aren't going to come back immediately?
Yeah, that's the one thing in our surveys. It really enlightened us. And in our surveys, we allowed for comments, and we got them. Now, I will say, in our experiences, everybody's been positive. We have not had the negative situations going on. Even with the announcement of opening, some people are experiencing the community at large reaching out and saying this isn't right, you shouldn't be opening, you're germ spreaders and all this kind of stuff. What we focused on in our involvement with the task force and we focused on here at the club was not only the perception our members are going to have, we got to also be aware of the perception the community has had. Yeah. It's going to have. We've got to make sure that we're a good partner with both. So what we've done is when we started this thing up, as everybody's done, we started filming classes and put them online. Les Mills allowed us to share all that, which was a great resource. Our members absolutely loved it, and they don't want to see it stop. There'll have to be some changes with licensing and all that, but we'll do that. I think everybody's given some leeway during this COVID experience. But, the licensing is going to get a little stricter, and you're going to have to be careful with everything from the music to everything else. So we're going to have to switch into that next phase. But, yes, that's going to continue, and it's going to get bigger. We're also bringing the virtual. We were doing a small virtual classes. We had just started virtual classes in our cycling studio right before we closed. But now we're going to enhance that with even more, and we're going to hopefully add that to the other studios. So we're severely limited, 25% of what we can host in a class. So we're severely limited on that. So I feel we're going to have to do some back-to-back classes, not yet, but coming soon, 30-minute classes and things like that. So more members can take advantage with time to clean in between. But then the rest of the day, having these virtual classes so people can come back slowly, smaller crowds, and enjoy it and maybe spread it out a little bit more. It's going to be an important part for the future, even with virtual training going on. That is going to be stepped up in the future.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's I think a lot of people may have been ahead of this, and we're already doing that to some extent. But if they weren't, they are now, and it's been great to see it, like on Facebook or LinkedIn, to see some of the workouts that people are posting for their members to use, and most of them are really well produced, and in another time people would be paying for them, and maybe that's another revenue stream at some point. So that's been fun to see.
Yeah. And that's a good point. What we did at first with our classes, once again, we wanted to be a partner with the community, so we didn't charge anything. Since we've been closed, we haven't charged anything to any members. Sure. But we paid our entire team the entire way through, down to our group fitness instructors. Wow. Everybody's been paid all the way through. And I know everybody couldn't do that, but our most important asset we have in our club is our team. And we didn't know all the rules that are going to come. We didn't know about the unemployment that was going to kick in at the amounts that they have done. We didn't know about the PPP loan and all this kind of stuff. So we did this with all risks falling on us, and we'll make it up later. I know everybody couldn't do that, but where you could, it really showed the team something. I was afraid that once the unemployment levels kicked up the way they did, and the amounts that people can get through that some of our team would get upset that they're being paid their regular pay and they can't get on unemployment at that exorbitant amount, like a full-time employee. But they didn't. You know what they did? They told us how appreciative they were to be part of this all the way through, and that we showed that we cared, because our team's our most important asset. The building, the equipment, and all, that's fine. Everybody offers these things, but what differentiates us all is our team and how we do things. It's an experience. We've learned a lot from our members all the way through.
That's great. We probably could have increased the bond between you two guys and the rest of the employees there too. Would have been, doing what Roger Goodell did. Just say, I'm not taking a salary. I'll pass it on to you guys down below underneath it. Y'all didn't think about doing that?
We did, but not exactly like Roger says. Well, I'll tell you, we learned something, and you brought this up in a previous conversation we had, Sean. Down here, and I know everybody deals with their circumstances in their areas, but we had to deal with Katrina back in 2005. Yeah. Now, back then, texting was just starting. There was really no communication at that point with your teams. So we not only didn't know where our teams were and when they're coming back, because we couldn't get in touch with them on the phone, we didn't even know where our members were and if they were ever coming back. So it's a totally different situation, but you do learn some things. And when Marvin and I are working up the plans for this pay for the employees all the way through, we came up with the 30, 60, 90-day plan. And what was going to happen after 30 days is that we were going to cut everyone's pay that gets paid over a certain amount, let's say $15 an hour. They were going to be paid $15 an hour. If they earned under that, they would continue to get that. But everybody that was at $15 and above, including Marvin and myself and the rest of the management team, and a lot of employees here, we would make that up to them once we open the doors. They're not going to not get paid for that, but we'll give them the $50 wage to begin to carry them through. And then when we open our doors, we're going to make that up to them over the first 30, 60 days and pay them all their money back after that. So it's not exactly what Roger Goodell was doing or whatever, but it was our option to say, we're in it with you. We're going to be there with you. But hopefully we're all made whole after this thing gets back open.
Yeah, that's a great plan. So in the future, or looking ahead, what did this situation delay for you guys? Let's say you had some plans that you were going to enact in the past couple of months. What was delayed? Or maybe you started looking at things and decided, hey, that idea we had, we no longer need to do that.
Well, I'll tell you, Marvin and I, first thing we did, you got to do your bottom-up management. I say you have bottom-up and you have top-down. Top-down is a good way to look at things in a general sense, but it's too global. If you don't dig down into the numbers, you don't look at the details behind the numbers, you don't know the little things you can cut out to save you money along the way. So the first thing we did is every department head immediately, we jumped on, what can we cut? Let's look at every item on the general ledger, every item on the financial statements. What can we cut and what can we cut back? And once again, not only are we partners with our employees, we're partners with some of the people that work here at the club, like our landscaping crew. I mean, these guys, it's a contract labor situation. You know, we hire a company to do all of our landscaping. We have a very extensive property here of 25 acres. But we didn't want to wipe them out. We wanted to partner with them even going forward. So they cut their fee down by, I think, a third or 60%. Marvin was able to work with them on, but we were very truthful with them. We don't want to hurt you. We want to carry as much as we can, but we've got to save some dollars. So he was able to negotiate that and bring it back down. So once again, being true to your vendors, we didn't want to mess with our vendors too much. We want to be true to them. We'll pay them as soon as we can, and we've made it all up to them. And then they'll be there when you reopen. They'll be behind you as you move forward, and all these good relations carry forward 10 times. The things we kind of cut back on are, of course, capital. We had to cut back, but not all. We bought some equipment. We have some new equipment coming in. We're adding pickleball on our tennis courts. That was supposed to take place right before we closed. We stopped our vendor and said, let's wait till we are about to open, just for cash flow purposes. Can you wait till then? And they could. So we stopped them, and they're actually starting construction, I think, today to do that. So it delayed some of those projects. There's other big projects that we pull off when our dues get to a certain level that we want to do some transformation of our fitness area. That's going to come, but it might have to wait a little longer. But instead of being at the end of this year, it might be hopefully the first quarter of next year we can move on it. But one thing I've seen for all the other disasters we've been in, and they're all different, of course, but you got to look at the like things. You can learn from every one of them. But clubs usually come out stronger afterwards. It might not be immediately, but they come out stronger. We had our best year I've ever seen in a club, even in our restaurant operations when we were at another club during Katrina. We had a fraction of the operations and mostly just had a coffee shop, and we did more profit after Katrina with just a coffee shop than we did in our whole restaurant when we had it going in a big health club. That's something Marvin achieved. So we weren't even sure we wanted to open the restaurant again because we all know what headaches those are. But you learn things, come out stronger. So I think we're going to take a little bumps immediately, but people are going to learn from this. You need health. I mean, we need health, and we need exercise, and we need nutrition. So where other clubs are seeing an uptick in their new member sales, other things are holding down and slowly rising, but membership sales have gone up quite a bit. we're already starting to get calls hearing that we're open, and we're starting to get a lot of calls about, can we join?
I think Larry's right there, Sean. I think we saw that after the Katrina experience. 2006, like he said, was a banner year for that club that we were with. I mean, I think the Evident in that club was the most it's ever been, and just the departmental stuff that he mentioned. But I think we see that here too. I don't know if it's as quick as we saw there, but I think over time it is, and I think the health side of it is what's going to play in, right? Everybody knows the exercise is medicine tag, and I think that's come out. We've seen Dr. Salas and some of the things he's put out since this has started, and everywhere you turn on the news, Sean, it's not one day that you don't hear about diabetes, hypertension, blood pressure, your just obesity, just any of these predisposed factors that are really impacting it. And some of the health professionals, I have health professionals in my family, and we have doctors here, members of the club that would tell you the folks that they are seeing. Can it happen to you and I and Larry? Of course, it happen to anyone. And there's stories of really healthy people that are impacted, but the vast majority, especially that are being hospitalized and severely impacting, are those folks that are deconditioned or have some of these preconditions. So I think that people are going to see that over time. I think that as we get to step back and people start operating, you go to the store more, you go to a restaurant, I think people will take a little inventory, internally there and say, what can I do to prepare for something like this? It won't be the exact same thing, right? It's not going to be COVID-20 next time. It's going to be a little one-off, but how do I better prepare myself personally? Financially, I think folks do that, but I think they want to invest in themselves here at the club and do what they can to be prepared for something like this that may come along sooner than later.
No, I agree. I mean, and I think that's probably a good note for us to end on, is how important it is to invest in yourself. And that's what I believe a fitness center membership is. It's an investment in yourself. Now, obviously, there's different types of clubs, there's different levels of investment, so to speak. But even if someone doesn't join a club, just exercising in general, obviously, is very positive and very good for you, very beneficial. And I know y'all seen more people on the streets than ever before, and that's been great. And hopefully, a lot of people will filter into clubs at some point, and then take it to the next level, which would be great for them, great for us, and just it's just something to look forward to.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
One note I
go ahead, Marvin.
Is I just remind any club operator that's watching that we really need to follow the protocols. We need to read them and to make sure we understand them. Have a plan for your team, whether it's a 50-page document, like Larry said, or 2 pages, whatever it is. Have something for your team. One thing I'd say is Larry and I have been here almost every day, right? But since the club closed, but as we brought our team back, this week has been the most exciting because folks are back in the building. We're able to operate our outdoor courts, but as our team comes back, they have questions that we thought of 6 weeks ago and moved on from, but they have them today. So the first time your front desk worker or your fitness floor staff or a trainer or a manager that hasn't been here is in the club working with other staff and working with your members, you got to have a plan for them and you got to support them. And I think, like Larry mentioned, it's not going to happen just over a couple of weeks. I think we'll see that for months to come, and maybe new policies that will keep forever. But have a plan and support your team with that as you go along.
Yeah, and don't have people wait. Management needs to be on the floor answering questions for their team and for the members. We can't be sitting in offices at this point in time. For the first 60, 90 days, it's all feet on the floor.
Yeah, that's a great point. You got to be present, interactive, and it'll help the transition be a lot easier and a lot smoother, and people will appreciate it in the long run at that. So if anyone, let's say another operator, a club owner, anyone in the fitness industry wants to get in touch with you guys with some questions, because you have a lot of experience, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
Well, they can go, Sean, they can go to our website,
Great.
StoneCreekClubandSpa.com. I know it's long, but they had to do that. But they can go to that website and contact us or about us. Marvin and I are in there. All our managers are in there with their contact information. Okay. Shoot us an email, and we will get back to you. We're all in it together, so we're happy to answer any questions that we can help anybody with.
I'm happy to share anything we've done, Sean, and any questions anyone has. We do it through our roundtable groups, and happy to do it for anyone here locally or that your clients that you work with as well.
That's good to hear. All right, well, thank you guys, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, sounds good, Sean. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sean. Take
Take
care.
care. Have a nice weekend.
You
Thanks.
too.
Thanks.